Hello, everyone. Welcome to English Today Journey. I'm very happy you're here. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for daily English tips. This is the place where we talk about everyday life in a simple way. The goal is to help you improve your English while also learning lessons for life. Today, I want to share something important with you, something you can think about and maybe use in your own life. The topic today is a phrase you have probably heard many times. Honesty is the best policy. You might have heard this saying and thought, yes, I know that. But what does it really mean? And is it really true? Is being honest always the best choice? And if it is, why does it sometimes feel so hard to tell the truth, not just to others, but even to ourselves? These are the questions we are going to explore in this episode. Let's start with the proverb itself. Honesty is the best policy is very old. It has been said for hundreds of years. The meaning is simple. Living truthfully and acting with integrity is the smartest way to live. When you are honest, you make decisions that are safe, reliable, and good for your life. Honesty does not mean life will always be easy. In fact, being honest can sometimes feel uncomfortable or even scary. You might worry about hurting someone's feelings, losing trust, or facing problems. But in the long run, honesty usually brings positive results. It gives you peace of mind, builds trust with other people, and helps you feel proud and respectful toward yourself. Think about a time when you told a small lie. Maybe you said you liked someone's cooking even though you didn't. Or maybe you didn't tell the truth to avoid getting into trouble. Most of us have done this at some point. It is part of being human. But here's the important question. How did you feel after that lie? Did you feel free and relaxed? Or did you feel heavy and worried? Did you feel peaceful? Or did you carry guilt inside? Even small lies can create stress, make us anxious, or put distance between us and other people. Being honest is not always easy. It takes courage. Honesty is not just about the words we say. It is about who we are. It is about respecting ourselves and others. It is about choosing to be real, even when it feels hard. When we are honest, we build trust and stronger relationships. People know they can rely on us, and we feel proud of ourselves for being true. Honesty also helps us understand ourselves better. Sometimes, we lie to others because we are not fully honest with ourselves. We hide our feelings, our mistakes, or our thoughts. But facing the truth, both inside and outside, is the first step toward personal growth. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it is worth it. Over time, being honest becomes easier, and life becomes clearer. So, the next time you are in a situation where telling the truth feels difficult, remember this. Honesty is the best policy. It may not be the easiest path, but it is the right one. Being honest gives you peace, self-respect, and stronger relationships. It may require courage, but the benefits last a lifetime. Living with honesty means living with integrity, trust, and clarity. Today, we're going to talk about something very important, honesty. We will look at why honesty matters, how it helps us grow as people, and why it can be the key to building stronger relationships and a more peaceful life. Honesty is more than just a word or a rule. It is a way of living that affects everything we do. Take a moment and think about yourself. Have you ever been afraid to tell the truth because you worried about what others might think? Maybe you stayed silent because you weren't sure how someone would react. Or think about honesty with yourself. Are you truly honest about your goals, your feelings, or your mistakes? Being honest with yourself can be even harder than being honest with others. It requires courage and self-awareness, but it is also the most important kind of honesty because it shapes who you are. Honesty does not mean being perfect. Nobody is perfect. It is not about always saying the right thing or never making mistakes. Honesty is a practice. It is a skill that grows slowly over time through the choices we make, through learning from experience, and through being aware of ourselves and our actions. It is something we build little by little, day by day. It's important to understand that honesty is not the same as saying everything that comes to your mind without thinking. That is not honesty. That is carelessness. Real honesty is different. Real honesty is about balance. It is about telling the truth, but doing it in a way that is kind and thoughtful. It is about being clear without hurting others unnecessarily. It is about living with integrity while still caring for the people around you. As we explore this idea today, I want you to relax, open your mind, and reflect on your own relationship with honesty. Think about the times you were honest and how it made you feel. Think about the times you avoided honesty and what effect that had on you and others. Honesty is not just about knowing what is right or wrong. It is about building connection, shaping your character, and creating a life you can feel proud of. Let's ask a simple but important question. What does honesty really mean? Most of us might answer quickly. Honesty means not lying or telling the truth. And yes, that is correct, but it is only the beginning. Honesty is much deeper than simply giving facts. It is also about being real, being clear, and being true to yourself, even when it is uncomfortable or challenging. For example, being honest is not only about saying, "The meeting is at 10 a.m." or "I finished the report yesterday." That is factual honesty, and it is important. But honesty also includes emotional honesty. Emotional honesty is about expressing how you really feel. It is about admitting your mistakes or fears. It is about being open about your thoughts and feelings in a way that is true and respectful. Emotional honesty is harder than factual honesty because it requires courage. It can feel scary to tell someone how you really feel or to face your own emotions honestly. But it is also the kind of honesty that builds trust, creates strong relationships, and helps you grow as a person. When you are emotionally honest, you allow yourself and others to connect in a real and meaningful way. Honesty is not always easy, but it is always valuable. By practicing honesty, both factual and emotional, you can live a life that feels authentic and true. You can make decisions that are right for you and create relationships based on trust and respect. Honesty helps you understand yourself better and guides you toward becoming the person you want to be. Honesty is not just about sharing facts or avoiding lies. It is also about admitting your true feelings. Emotional honesty means being open about how you feel, even when it is uncomfortable. It could be saying, "I'm sad," "I'm nervous," or "I don't understand this." It's about showing up as your real self, without pretending to be someone you're not. When you live this way, life becomes simpler. You don't have to remember lies or act in ways that don't feel natural. You can relax, knowing that your life matches who you really are. That is the heart of honesty. Emotional honesty is one of the hardest kinds of honesty for many people, but it is also one of the most important. So, what does it really mean? Emotional honesty is about sharing your feelings honestly. It's not about stating facts like "the meeting is at 10 a.m." or "I finished my homework." Those are factual truths, and they are important. Emotional honesty is about feelings like saying, "I'm feeling overwhelmed. That comment hurt me," or "I'm not okay right now." Many people find this type of honesty difficult because it makes them feel vulnerable. Being emotionally honest means opening your heart. You admit when you are scared, disappointed, or in need of help. Opening your heart takes courage because you risk being judged, misunderstood, or even rejected. That fear makes many people hide their true feelings, pretending everything is fine even when it is not. But here is the important truth. Without emotional honesty, it is very hard to build real relationships. If you always hide your feelings, others can never truly know you. They might see a surface version of you, but they won't see your real self. Emotional honesty allows people to connect with you in a meaningful way. It also helps them feel safe to share their own emotions with you. This mutual honesty builds trust and deeper bonds. Being emotionally honest means you stop wearing a mask all the time. You don't force a smile when you feel like crying. You don't say, "I'm fine," when inside, you are struggling. Instead, you give yourself permission to be real. You acknowledge your emotions and let others see them. This kind of honesty takes strength, especially today, when so many people pretend to be okay. It takes courage to admit your weaknesses, fears, or hurt feelings, but the reward is real connection and genuine understanding. When you practice emotional honesty, life becomes lighter. You carry less stress because you are not trying to hide your true self. You also gain self-respect because you honor your own feelings. Emotional honesty helps you grow as a person. It helps you learn about yourself, your reactions, and your boundaries. It is not always easy, but it is always worthwhile. As we continue, think about how honesty shows up in your life. How often do you hide your true feelings to avoid conflict or judgment? How often do you pretend to be okay when you are not? Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward change. Practicing honesty, both factual and emotional, helps you build stronger relationships, gain trust, and live a life that feels authentic. Honesty affects many areas of life, and one of the most important is relationships. Honesty is the foundation of trust. Imagine having a friend who always tells you what you want to hear, even if it is not true. At first, it may feel good, but over time, you begin to ask yourself, can I really trust this person? Do they mean what they say? A true friend does not only say things to make you feel comfortable. A true friend speaks from the heart. They are willing to share the truth with kindness, even if it is hard to hear. This kind of honesty creates deep, meaningful relationships. Honesty is also very important in the workplace. Being honest at work does not mean saying everything that comes to your mind or being rude. It means being clear, professional, and reliable. For example, if you make a mistake, honesty means admitting it. Instead of covering it up or blaming someone else, you take responsibility. When you do this, people respect you more. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone has the courage to admit them. Being honest at work shows maturity, responsibility, and a willingness to grow. Honesty at work also includes giving feedback respectfully. You do not just tell coworkers what they want to hear. You share what they need to know to improve, and you do it kindly. When you give honest feedback in this way, people trust you, value your opinion, and know you are acting in their best interest. Perhaps the hardest type of honesty is self-honesty. This means being truthful with yourself about your life, your habits, your dreams, and even your weaknesses. Self-honesty asks the tough questions. Am I doing what I truly want with my life? Am I proud of how I act when nobody is watching? Am I avoiding something important because I am afraid? These questions are not easy to answer. They take courage. But true personal growth begins here. Without honesty with yourself, it is hard to improve or move forward. Self-honesty helps you understand who you are and what you really want. Being honest with yourself also makes it easier to be honest with others. When you know your own truth, you can act consistently and speak clearly. You stop pretending to be someone you are not. You stop hiding your feelings, dreams, or mistakes. Living honestly with yourself creates inner peace because your actions match your values. You stop living in fear of being discovered or judged. Honesty in relationships, at work, and with yourself is connected. Each type of honesty supports the others. When you practice honesty in small ways every day, it becomes a habit. You gain respect, trust, and confidence. You build stronger connections with friends, family, and coworkers. And most importantly, you build a life that feels real, meaningful, and true to who you are. Honesty is not always easy. It can be uncomfortable and sometimes even scary. But the benefits are long-lasting. It creates peace of mind, deeper relationships, and personal growth. It allows you to live a life of integrity, where your words, actions, and feelings all align. The courage to be honest in all areas of life is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. When we are not honest with ourselves, we stay stuck. We keep repeating the same habits and patterns, even if they do not help us or make our lives better. But when we are honest, we can finally see clearly where we are in life. And once we see that, we can make choices about where we want to go and who we want to become. Honesty comes in many forms. There is factual honesty, which is about telling the truth and sharing information accurately. There is emotional honesty, which is about expressing your feelings openly and truthfully. There is honesty in relationships, where honesty builds trust and deep connections. There is honesty at work, where being clear, responsible, and respectful helps you earn respect and succeed. And there is self-honesty, being truthful with yourself about your goals, dreams, weaknesses, and fears. When you look at all these forms together, you see something very important. Honesty is much bigger than just not lying. Honesty is about showing up as your true self in every part of your life, your words, your actions, and your emotions. It is about saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and having the courage to live in alignment with your values. Of course, honesty is not always easy. Sometimes it feels risky or uncomfortable. Sometimes it can even feel messy because being honest might lead to difficult conversations or emotions. But despite this, honesty is one of the most valuable tools we have. It is the bridge between who we are now and who we want to become. It helps us create a life that feels real, not just convenient or easy. Think for a moment about your own life. Where could you be more honest right now? Maybe with a close friend or family member. Maybe in your work, in how you communicate or take responsibility. Or perhaps with yourself, about your goals, your dreams, or your fears. Honesty is not about being perfect. It is about being real. And it is this realness that allows true growth and change to happen. So what does the saying, "Honesty is the best policy," really mean? It means that no matter where you are, in your home, at work, or deep inside yourself, living honestly is the smartest and healthiest way to live. Honesty builds trust with others, creates peace in your mind, and helps you live a life you can be proud of. You have probably heard this saying many times before, maybe from a teacher, a parent, or in a story. It is simple but powerful. It reminds us that being honest, factual, emotional, relational, or with ourselves is always the best choice in the long run. Honesty may not always be easy, but it is always worth it. It helps us connect, grow, and live with integrity. Take a moment and really think about what the saying, "Honesty is the best policy," means. We often hear it, but do we truly consider it in our everyday life? At its core, this proverb is simple. It teaches us that being honest, telling the truth, and acting with integrity is the smartest way to live. It is not just a suggestion, it is a rule that guides how we should behave. The word policy is important here. A policy is a principle, a guide, or a rule to follow. So when people say honesty is the best policy, they are really saying, let honesty be the rule that shapes your life. This idea is not new. In fact, it has been around for a very long time. The phrase likely came from Old English and European traditions, but the value of honesty can be found across almost every culture and language. From ancient philosophers to religious teachers, from fables to moral stories passed down through generations, honesty has always been seen as the foundation of good character. But why is it considered so important? The answer is simple. Honesty doesn't just affect one person, it affects everyone around them. The way people live together, whether in a family, a community, or a society, works best when honesty is present. When honesty is missing, trust disappears. And without trust, relationships of any kind start to weaken and even fail. When we say honesty is the best policy, we are really connecting it to two important ideas: trust and character. Trust is like a bridge between people. Every time you tell the truth and act honestly, you make that bridge stronger. People feel they can rely on you. They feel safe to share their thoughts, their worries, and their ideas because they believe in what you say. Trust allows relationships to grow stronger, whether at home, among friends, or at work. Without honesty, however, that bridge slowly develops cracks. Lies, deceit, and dishonesty weaken it until it might even collapse completely, leaving relationships fragile or broken. The second idea connected to honesty is character. Character is who you are when nobody is watching. Being honest shows that you respect yourself and respect others. It shows that you are responsible, reliable, and thoughtful. Over time, honesty builds your reputation. People see you as dependable and fair. They admire your dignity and integrity. When you act honestly, you create a life that others can trust and admire. Even small acts of honesty, repeated consistently, gradually form a strong personal character that guides every decision you make. Living honestly may not always be easy. Sometimes telling the truth can feel uncomfortable or risky. But in the long run, it is always the best choice. Lies and deception might offer temporary comfort or gain, but they usually create problems that grow bigger with time. Honesty, on the other hand, lays a foundation for a life of meaningful relationships, personal respect, and trustworthiness. It allows you to face the world with confidence, knowing that your words match your actions and that people can count on you. In the end, honesty is not just a simple rule. It is a way of life. It connects us with others, strengthens our relationships, and shapes our character. By following this principle, we build trust, honor, and respect that last a lifetime. So, whenever you face a choice, big or small, ask yourself, am I being honest? Let honesty guide you, because it truly is the best policy in every part of life. People often forget our mistakes, but they rarely forget our honesty. Being honest leaves a lasting impression. But now we face an important question. Is honesty always easy? The truth is no, it isn't. Sometimes telling the truth can feel frightening. Sometimes it makes us feel exposed or vulnerable. We may hesitate because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings. We may fear conflict, judgment, or misunderstanding. These challenges show us that honesty is not always simple, and it often requires courage. This brings up a deeper question. Is honesty always the right thing to do? For instance, imagine a situation where telling the whole truth could deeply upset someone. Should we speak it anyway? Or is it sometimes better to be gentle, choosing words carefully to protect feelings? The answer shows that honesty is more than just stating facts. It is also about how we share the truth. True honesty involves being open, but it also involves being kind. It is about finding balance, speaking the truth in a way that respects others while remaining true to ourselves. This thoughtful approach makes honesty not only ethical, but also practical in building lasting relationships. So, as we continue thinking about honesty, consider this. How can we practice honesty in a way that strengthens trust and demonstrates good character, even when it is difficult? This is the real challenge of honesty. Yet it is also the gift it gives us. Choosing honesty brings benefits that affect every part of our lives. When we act honestly, we change not only the way others see us, but also how we see ourselves. Honesty is a bridge to better relationships, stronger character, and personal growth. It is an essential quality in every aspect of life, not just in learning or professional settings, but in friendships, family, and community. Let's look more closely at the benefits of being honest. First and foremost, honesty builds trust. Trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. It doesn't matter whether it is a friendship, a family bond, or a professional connection. Without trust, relationships cannot thrive. When you are honest, people know they can rely on you. They feel safe sharing their thoughts, feelings, and concerns. They believe in your words because they know you are sincere. Trust grows gradually through consistent honesty, and it becomes stronger each time you speak the truth, even when it is hard. Another benefit of honesty is the way it shapes your character. Character is who you are at your core, and honesty is a cornerstone of strong character. Being truthful shows that you respect yourself and respect others. It demonstrates responsibility, maturity, and reliability. Over time, consistent honesty builds a positive reputation. People begin to see you as dependable, fair, and honorable. This reputation, in turn, opens doors and strengthens relationships in every area of life. Furthermore, honesty improves your relationship with yourself. When you are truthful, you experience less guilt, stress, or inner conflict. You don't have to remember lies or keep up appearances. Being honest allows you to live authentically. You can make decisions confidently, knowing that your actions match your words. It brings a sense of peace and self-respect that cannot be achieved through deceit. Of course, practicing honesty is not always easy. Sometimes it requires bravery, patience, and thoughtfulness. But the rewards are worth it. Honest communication, thoughtful truth-telling, and sincere behavior lead to stronger connections, deeper understanding, and greater self-awareness. In the end, honesty is more than a principle, it is a way of life. By practicing honesty thoughtfully and consistently, we strengthen trust, build character, and create a life filled with meaningful, lasting relationships. Trust is the foundation of every strong relationship, whether it's a friendship, a marriage, a business partnership, or even the relationship you have with yourself. Without trust, everything falls apart. Think about it for a moment. When someone is honest with you, how do you feel? You feel safe. You know where you stand. You don't have to guess what they are really thinking or worry that they might be hiding something. There is no confusion, no second-guessing, no uncertainty. Everything feels clear. The same is true in the opposite direction. When you are honest with others, they feel safe with you. They feel comfortable being open and honest in return. Honesty creates a healthy space for relationships, a space where people can speak freely, solve problems more quickly, and support each other better. In this way, honesty strengthens connections, builds trust, and encourages cooperation. It allows relationships to grow in a way that lies, secrecy, or deception never can. But honesty does more than build trust. It also strengthens your confidence. You might wonder how honesty and confidence are connected. Let's break it down. When you are honest, you are being real. You are not pretending. You are not acting a role to please others or hide your true thoughts. You are standing firmly in your own truth. This takes courage. Every time you speak honestly, even in difficult situations, you send a clear message to yourself. My voice matters. My feelings matter. My values matter. My choices matter. Each honest moment you experience builds self-respect and gradually strengthens your confidence. Here's another important point. People don't always have to agree with you to respect you. Even if someone disagrees with what you say, they will often appreciate that you're honest. And even if no one else notices, your honesty allows you to respect yourself. This self-respect is invaluable. It forms the core of a strong, confident character. You learn to stand by your words and your principles, which gives you inner strength that no external approval can replace. Another major benefit of honesty is its effect on stress and anxiety. Think back to a time when you told a lie. How did you feel afterward? Most likely, you felt nervous, worried, or anxious about being found out. You may have replayed the situation in your mind repeatedly, thinking about what might happen if the truth were revealed. Lies create mental strain and tension. They make life more complicated and emotionally draining. In contrast, honesty reduces stress. When you speak the truth, you do not have to remember false stories, cover up mistakes, or fear discovery. Life becomes simpler, lighter, and less stressful. Your mind can relax because you are living openly and authentically. Honesty also encourages better decision-making. When you are truthful, you can face problems clearly without being clouded by deception or falsehoods. You see situations as they truly are, which allows you to respond effectively. People who practice honesty tend to resolve conflicts more quickly, communicate more clearly, and build stronger, more reliable networks of relationships. The benefits ripple outwards. Your honesty not only strengthens your own life, but it positively affects the lives of those around you. In short, honesty is powerful. It builds trust, strengthens relationships, boosts confidence, and reduces stress. It allows you to live authentically, with self-respect and courage. While honesty is sometimes difficult, the rewards are far greater than the temporary comfort of hiding the truth. By being honest, you create a life of clarity, respect, and meaningful connections. It is a guiding principle that touches every part of life, from the way you relate to others to the way you view yourself. Carrying dishonesty is like carrying a heavy weight on your shoulders. Every lie, every hidden truth, adds more pressure. It makes life complicated and stressful. But when you tell the truth, that weight disappears. There is nothing to hide, nothing to remember, and nothing to cover up. You are free. You can rest easier at night. You can face people with confidence, look them in the eyes without fear, and feel at peace with yourself. Sometimes honesty feels uncomfortable in the moment, but after, it usually brings relief, like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. Let me share a story from my own life to show how honesty works. Years ago, a close friend invited me to help with a group project. At the time, I said yes because I didn't want to disappoint them. Deep down, though, I knew I didn't have the time or energy to give it my best. So, I delayed my work, made excuses, and slowly the situation became messy. My friend grew frustrated, and I felt guilty. Eventually, I decided to come clean. I admitted that I had overpromised, that I couldn't fully commit, and that I felt bad for letting them down. To my surprise, my friend wasn't angry. In fact, they were thankful that I finally told the truth. That honest conversation helped us rebuild trust, and we are still friends today. Looking back, I realized something important. If I had been honest from the beginning, we could have avoided all that stress and tension. The truth might hurt for a moment, but dishonesty can cause problems for a much longer time. Now, think about yourself. Have you ever felt relief after telling the truth, even when it was difficult? Maybe you admitted something you had been hiding, or finally said what you truly thought. Most likely, it felt like a weight lifted from your shoulders. That is the power of honesty. Honesty clears the air, it frees you, and it allows you to move forward. Of course, being honest doesn't mean everything will go perfectly. People may not always react the way you hope. Sometimes they may feel upset, frustrated, or disappointed. But even when the response isn't perfect, honesty creates clarity. It allows for communication, understanding, and growth. Lies, on the other hand, often create confusion, hurt feelings, and unnecessary stress. Over time, dishonesty can damage relationships more than the temporary discomfort of telling the truth ever would. Another important point is that honesty builds credibility. When people see that you are truthful, they begin to trust your words and actions more. They know you are reliable. They believe that when you say something, you mean it. Trust, once built through honesty, becomes a strong foundation that supports deeper connections, whether in friendships, family, or work relationships. Additionally, honesty strengthens your character. Being truthful shows courage. It demonstrates that you respect both yourself and others. It proves that you are willing to take responsibility for your actions. Every act of honesty, no matter how small, contributes to a reputation of integrity. Over time, this reputation becomes a powerful asset. It shapes how others see you and how you see yourself. You gain confidence, self-respect, and the ability to navigate life with clarity and dignity. In the end, honesty is not just about avoiding lies. It is about living openly, taking responsibility, and communicating clearly. It frees you from the burden of secrecy and builds trust that can last a lifetime. While it may sometimes feel difficult in the moment, honesty almost always leads to stronger relationships, a calmer mind, and a life lived with integrity and courage. It is one of the simplest yet most powerful principles we can practice every day. Here's the thing. In most situations, honesty actually makes relationships stronger, not weaker. It gives people the chance to truly know you, the real you. And that understanding is far more valuable than any temporary comfort that comes from hiding the truth. Honesty isn't just an old saying or a moral rule. It is a practical tool, a tool that helps us connect with others, grow as individuals, and live with greater confidence, trust, and peace. Being honest allows relationships to thrive and gives life clarity that dishonesty can never provide. But what happens when we aren't honest? What is the real cost of lying? Even small lies. Many people think small lies, often called white lies, don't matter. These are the so-called harmless lies we tell to avoid hurting someone's feelings. For example, you might say, "I love your cooking," even if the food isn't great, or say, "I'm fine," when deep down you're not. On the surface, these lies might seem polite, even kind. But there's a problem. Even small lies, if repeated, can slowly erode trust. Over time, they can weaken relationships and create confusion. Then there are half-truths. A half-truth happens when you say something that is partly true, but leave out important details. For instance, you might tell your boss, "I've started the project." Technically, this may be true if you've written the title or made a small start, but if the real work hasn't been done, it's misleading. Is that really honesty? Not really. Half-truths can be just as damaging as outright lies. They give others a false sense of security, and people begin to trust words that don't tell the full story. Another form of dishonesty is the lie of omission. This occurs when you withhold important information. Imagine your friend is about to make a big decision, and you know something that could influence their choice, but you stay silent. By not sharing the full truth, you are allowing them to make decisions based on incomplete information. Over time, repeated omissions can quietly destroy trust. People may sense that something is being hidden, even if they cannot immediately identify what. That uncertainty can slowly damage a relationship and create distance. The danger of dishonesty is that it often starts small. A little lie here, a small exaggeration there, might feel harmless. But these small acts can grow into patterns that are difficult to break. Once lying becomes a habit, it clouds judgment, confuses people, and damages credibility. What may seem like an innocent white lie can slowly undermine your reputation, weaken connections, and make relationships fragile. On the other hand, honesty, even when it is uncomfortable, builds long-term stability. People learn they can rely on you, trust your words, and understand your intentions. Honesty creates clarity. It removes misunderstandings and strengthens communication. Relationships based on honesty are healthier, more open, and more resilient to conflict. They allow everyone involved to solve problems, share openly, and support each other effectively. Ultimately, honesty is not just about avoiding lies. It is about living openly, communicating clearly, and taking responsibility for our words and actions. Small lies, half-truths, or omissions may seem harmless at the moment, but over time they carry a cost: reduced trust, weakened relationships, and unnecessary stress. Honesty, by contrast, strengthens character, builds confidence, and allows connections to flourish. It is a tool for life that brings freedom, clarity, and peace, even when it requires courage and thoughtfulness to practice consistently. Sometimes dishonesty isn't obvious. You may not tell a lie, but you also don't speak the truth. Silence, in some cases, can speak louder than words. The point is this: all forms of dishonesty, white lies, half-truths, or lies of omission, can cause harm. They create distance between people, damage trust, and perhaps most importantly, they can hurt you. Dishonesty leaves you feeling anxious, guilty, or uneasy inside, even if no one else ever discovers the truth. Let me share a personal story that taught me this lesson clearly. A few years ago, I agreed to attend a coworker's birthday dinner. On the day of the event, I was tired and honestly didn't feel like going. Instead of telling the truth, I made up a small excuse. I said I had a family emergency. At first, it seemed easy. There was no conflict, no awkward questions. I avoided confrontation, and everything seemed fine. But a few days later, my coworker asked me how my family was doing. Suddenly, I had to lie again to make my story believable. One small lie led to another, and before long, I began to feel embarrassed and uneasy. Here's the interesting part. My coworker never found out the truth, yet our relationship still changed.
Why?
Because I knew I hadn't been honest. That secret weighed on me. I started avoiding conversations, and the friendship never felt the same afterward. That is the thing about dishonesty. Even when nobody else discovers it, you carry the secret yourself. Carrying a lie feels heavy. It takes mental energy to maintain it. You have to remember what you said, who you said it to, and how to behave so you don't slip up. Over time, this constant effort builds pressure and can lead to stress, anxiety, and guilt. Dishonesty also damages relationships socially. Once someone discovers you lied, even just once, they begin to doubt everything you say. They may ask themselves, what else isn't being told? Rebuilding trust after that is incredibly difficult. It's like breaking a mirror. You can glue it back together, but the cracks remain. The reflection is never quite the same. Even small lies can have big consequences. They slowly chip away at credibility and reliability. When people feel they cannot trust your words, the connections you have with them weaken. Friendships, partnerships, or even casual relationships may become strained because trust is fragile and takes time to restore. Another point to consider is how dishonesty affects your self-respect. When you lie, you know deep down that your words do not match your actions. That inconsistency creates internal tension. You may feel guilt, shame, or regret. Over time, repeated dishonesty can damage your sense of self-worth, leaving you less confident and less comfortable in your own life. Honesty, in contrast, frees you. When you speak the truth, you don't have to remember a story or cover up a mistake. You can live openly and authentically. You can look people in the eye and feel at peace with yourself. Honesty reduces mental strain, strengthens relationships, and builds trust that lasts. While being truthful may feel uncomfortable at first, it leads to clarity, self-respect, and stronger connections. In life, even small lies carry a cost. They may seem harmless, but their effects ripple through your mind and your relationships. Being honest, even when difficult, removes that burden. It allows you to act with integrity, live with confidence, and maintain trust with others. Truthfulness is not always easy, but it is always the path that leads to freedom, clarity, and stronger bonds with the people around you. Even when a lie seems small, its effects can grow over time. When dishonesty happens, it may protect us from discomfort for a short while, but in the long run, it often creates far more pain. Lies leave cracks in relationships, in trust, and in our own sense of self. Even if the surface seems fine, those cracks are always there, waiting to be noticed. This is the true cost of dishonesty. Now, if honesty brings trust, confidence, respect, and peace of mind, a natural question arises. Why do so many of us still find it hard to be honest? Why is it so difficult to simply tell the truth, not only to others but also to ourselves? To understand this, it helps to explore some of the main reasons. The first reason is fear of judgment. One of the strongest reasons people avoid honesty is fear. Specifically, fear of what others might think about us. Deep down, we worry that if people knew what we truly think, feel, or have done, they might see us differently. We imagine criticism, ridicule, or being seen as weak or inadequate. To avoid this, we often stay silent or say what we believe people want to hear. This fear can be particularly strong in certain environments. Families, workplaces, or communities that place a high value on appearances make honesty feel risky. In such settings, people feel pressure to appear perfect, strong, or successful. Speaking honestly about struggles, mistakes, or unpopular opinions may seem dangerous. Yet hiding the truth to avoid judgment creates distance. It protects us temporarily, but prevents others from truly knowing us. It keeps relationships shallow and makes real connection harder to achieve. The second reason is fear of conflict. Honesty often requires saying things that are not easy to hear. For example, giving feedback to a colleague, telling a friend that their actions hurt you, or discussing difficult personal matters can all lead to tension. Many of us dislike conflict, so we avoid honesty to keep the peace. But avoiding conflict by staying silent or hiding the truth can create bigger problems over time. Unspoken issues fester, misunderstandings grow, and relationships can become strained. The challenge is that honesty and conflict are not always separate. Being truthful may temporarily cause discomfort, but avoiding honesty can cause lasting tension. Fear of conflict can prevent us from speaking up, even when honesty would solve problems, build trust, and strengthen connections. Overcoming this fear is part of practicing true honesty. Another reason honesty is difficult is fear of rejection or loss. Sometimes we fear that if we reveal our true selves, our mistakes, insecurities, or unpopular opinions, others may distance themselves. This fear can affect friendships, romantic relationships, or professional opportunities. As a result, we may sugarcoat, hide, or avoid sharing the truth to protect relationships. Ironically, this often weakens bonds rather than preserving them. A final reason honesty feels hard is self-deception. Sometimes, we aren't fully honest with ourselves. We may ignore our feelings, deny mistakes, or avoid difficult truths because accepting them feels painful. When we aren't honest with ourselves, it becomes even harder to be honest with others. Living authentically requires courage to confront our own truths before we can share them openly. Understanding why honesty can be difficult helps us approach it with patience and compassion for ourselves and others. Fear of judgment, fear of conflict, fear of rejection, or even fear of facing our own truths can all make honesty seem risky. Yet, recognizing these challenges is the first step to practicing honesty more consistently. Over time, speaking the truth carefully, respectfully, and courageously leads to stronger relationships, greater self-respect, and deeper peace of mind. Many of us avoid honesty because we fear conflict. We try to avoid disagreements at all costs. Instead of speaking our truth, we stay silent. We smile on the outside, but inside, we may feel sad, frustrated, or even angry. The problem is these hidden feelings don't disappear. They build up over time, creating tension. Avoiding conflict by staying silent can often harm relationships more than facing issues openly, calmly, and respectfully. Being honest doesn't mean being harsh. It means expressing your thoughts in a way that others can hear and understand without causing unnecessary pain. Another reason honesty is difficult is perfectionism. Many people believe they must always be perfect, or at least appear perfect to others. When we set impossibly high standards for ourselves, admitting mistakes, weaknesses, or doubts feels terrifying. We hesitate to say, "I don't know," or "I need help," because it feels like failure. But being human means being imperfect. Everyone makes mistakes. Being honest about struggles or uncertainties doesn't make us weak. It makes us real. In fact, sharing imperfections often brings people closer. It reminds them that you are human, just like they are, and it creates trust and connection. A third reason is people-pleasing. People-pleasers often put others' feelings, needs, or opinions above their own. They say yes when they want to say no, stay silent when something doesn't feel right, or pretend to agree just to avoid upsetting anyone. This habit can stem from childhood experiences, cultural expectations, or personal insecurities. While kindness is a wonderful quality, constantly hiding your true feelings to keep others happy can leave you feeling invisible, stressed, and even resentful. True kindness includes honesty. Sharing your thoughts respectfully allows people to know the real you, which strengthens relationships and promotes genuine connection. Fourth, fear of judgment also contributes to dishonesty. Many people worry about what others will think if they reveal their true feelings, thoughts, or experiences. Will people laugh at them? Criticize them? Think they are weak? These fears make honesty seem risky. But hiding the truth to avoid judgment creates distance. It prevents others from understanding you and keeps relationships shallow. Being honest requires courage, but it allows for authentic connections, where people see and appreciate the real you. Finally, there is something called imposter syndrome. This is when people feel like they don't deserve their achievements, their position, or the recognition they receive. They may think others will discover they are a fraud if they speak honestly about their struggles or uncertainties. Imposter syndrome can make people hide their true selves, avoid sharing opinions, or pretend to be more competent than they feel. The irony is that honesty about your abilities and challenges actually earns respect. It shows authenticity and builds trust, while hiding behind a mask can weaken relationships and increase stress. All of these challenges, fear of conflict, perfectionism, people-pleasing, fear of judgment, and imposter syndrome, show why honesty is often hard. Yet, despite these difficulties, practicing honesty is always worthwhile. It frees you from stress, strengthens relationships, and helps you grow. Being truthful doesn't mean sharing everything all the time or being harsh. It means speaking with courage, respect, and kindness, even when it feels uncomfortable. Overcoming these obstacles allows you to live authentically, gain self-respect, and develop deeper connections with others. Honesty is a skill and a habit. Like any skill, it takes practice. Each time you choose to speak the truth thoughtfully, you strengthen trust, reduce inner tension, and create stronger, healthier relationships. The benefits of honesty far outweigh the temporary comfort of hiding or avoiding the truth. Even small acts of honesty can have a big impact, building a life that is more open, peaceful, and fulfilling. Imposter syndrome is another reason honesty can feel difficult. This is when you feel like a fraud, like you don't truly deserve your success, or like one day people will realize you're not as capable as they think. When someone feels this way, being honest becomes very hard. They don't want to admit doubts, insecurities, or struggles because they fear being exposed. Instead, they pretend everything is under control. But pretending only strengthens the fear and keeps them trapped in a cycle of dishonesty, not just with others, but with themselves. As you can see, there are many reasons why honesty is challenging. Fear of judgment, fear of conflict, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and imposter syndrome. The important thing to remember is that none of this makes you a bad person. It just makes you human. Everyone struggles with honesty at times. By understanding why it feels hard, we can gently challenge these fears and create space for more truth in our lives. Being honest with yourself is perhaps the most important kind of honesty. It is the foundation of personal growth. We've been discussing honesty with others, but if you cannot be real with yourself, it is almost impossible to be authentic with anyone else. Self-honesty is about developing self-awareness. It means slowing down, looking inward, and honestly examining who you are, what you want, and what may be holding you back. Being honest with yourself means paying attention to your thoughts, feelings, habits, and actions, even the parts you might not like to admit. This includes noticing bad habits, fears, or mistakes without making excuses. It requires courage to face the truth about yourself, to look in the mirror and say, "This is me, the good and the not so good." Self-honesty allows you to recognize areas where you need improvement, but also to acknowledge your strengths and achievements without exaggeration or denial. For example, maybe you have a habit like procrastination. Being honest with yourself doesn't mean feeling guilty forever or beating yourself up. It means acknowledging it as it is. I tend to put things off, and it sometimes causes stress or missed opportunities. Once you recognize this truth, you can take responsible action to change it, rather than pretending the habit doesn't exist or blaming others for the consequences. Self-honesty also means being aware of your emotions. Perhaps you feel angry, sad, or frustrated in ways you haven't admitted even to yourself. Facing these feelings allows you to understand them, process them, and respond thoughtfully rather than acting out unconsciously. Pretending not to feel anything or hiding your emotions only adds pressure and blocks personal growth. Another part of self-honesty is evaluating your goals and motivations. Are the things you're pursuing truly what you want, or are they what others expect of you? Are your choices aligned with your values, or are they influenced by fear, habit, or pressure to please others? Being honest about these questions allows you to make decisions that truly serve you, rather than living in a way that feels false or unfulfilling. Ultimately, self-honesty is about embracing your full self. It is not about being perfect or harshly critical. It is about being real, acknowledging your flaws, celebrating your strengths, and taking responsibility for your life. Practicing honesty with yourself builds inner strength, self-respect, and clarity. It prepares you to speak truthfully with others, form deeper connections, and live authentically. Being honest with yourself also means recognizing your habits and reactions, even the ones that cause problems. Maybe you procrastinate, always leaving things until the last minute. Maybe you react too quickly with anger or frustration. Perhaps you avoid difficult conversations or feel too afraid to try new things. Self-honesty is about seeing these patterns clearly. It's not about judging yourself harshly or blaming others. Instead, it's about saying, "Yes, this is something I struggle with." Acknowledging your challenges is the first step toward change, because you cannot fix what you refuse to face. Another important part of self-honesty is understanding what you truly want. Many of us fool ourselves into chasing goals that sound good or that others expect us to pursue. Maybe you're working toward a career that looks impressive on paper but doesn't bring you happiness. Maybe you tell yourself you want more confidence, but deep down, you're afraid of the risks that come with change. Real self-honesty asks the difficult questions: what do I truly want? What makes me feel alive? What kind of life do I really want to build? And once you discover the answers, honesty challenges you to be brave enough to follow that path, even if it goes against other people's expectations. Owning your mistakes is another critical part of being honest with yourself. Everyone makes mistakes. It's a natural part of being human. But some people hide their errors, blame others, or pretend nothing went wrong. Avoiding responsibility blocks personal growth. True self-honesty sounds like this: I was wrong. I didn't handle that situation well. I can do better next time. When you can acknowledge mistakes in this way, you open the door to learning, improvement, and meaningful change. Without this acknowledgement, we repeat the same patterns, make the same errors, and avoid important decisions. Change is nearly impossible if we cannot face the truth about ourselves. Self-honesty also involves recognizing your emotions and motivations. It means slowing down and paying attention to how you feel, instead of brushing emotions aside or hiding from them. Maybe you feel anger, sadness, or disappointment, but you've learned to ignore these feelings. Self-honesty asks you to acknowledge them, understand them, and use them to guide your decisions thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. Ignoring your feelings keeps you trapped in habits that don't serve you, while facing them allows you to live more consciously and intentionally. Finally, self-honesty is about living authentically. It's about being real with yourself, understanding both your strengths and weaknesses, and being willing to take responsibility for your choices. It's about asking yourself hard questions and acting on the answers, even when it's uncomfortable. By doing this, you create a strong foundation for honesty with others. You build self-respect, inner strength, and the clarity to make decisions aligned with your true values. Without honesty with yourself, life can feel like a series of reactions instead of intentional actions, and patterns repeat endlessly. Self-honesty is not easy, but it is the starting point for growth, change, and real fulfillment. It allows you to confront challenges openly, make better decisions, pursue what genuinely matters, and form relationships that are deeper, healthier, and more authentic. Every step toward honesty with yourself is a step toward a stronger, freer, and more meaningful life. Facing the truth can feel uncomfortable, but it is one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself. When you are honest, even about difficult or unpleasant realities, you give yourself a chance to grow and change. You stop running from problems or avoiding responsibility, and you start building the life you truly want. Honesty is the first step toward freedom and real progress. Let's look at a simple example. Imagine someone says they want to improve their English. They tell themselves, "I'm serious about learning," but day after day, they avoid practicing. They say, "I'm too tired, I don't have time," or "I'll do it tomorrow." Without honesty, this person might believe they are trying, but in reality, they aren't making any real progress. They remain stuck, frustrated, and unfulfilled. Now, if this person practices self-honesty, everything changes. They admit to themselves, "I'm not practicing enough. I keep avoiding it. That's why I'm not improving." At first, this truth might feel uncomfortable, even unpleasant. But it is also liberating, because once the truth is acknowledged, they can make different choices. Maybe they start practicing just 10 minutes a day. Small steps, yes, but real ones. These small, honest actions compound over time and lead to real improvement. The point is this: honesty with yourself is the foundation of growth. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. When you face the truth, you gain the power to change it. Most of us, however, think about honesty only in the short term. We worry about how uncomfortable it feels to tell the truth, about fear, embarrassment, or possible conflict. Yes, honesty can be difficult in the moment. It may feel awkward or risky, but the real power of honesty lies in the long term. Honest actions don't just affect one conversation or decision. They shape the kind of person you become over months, years, and even decades. Over time, honesty builds integrity, character, and trust that last a lifetime. Here's a story that illustrates this. I once worked with a colleague, let's call her Maria. She was part of a busy team in the office. One day, Maria discovered a significant mistake in a project report. It wasn't a small oversight. It could have caused serious problems if it went unnoticed. Many people in the office might have ignored it or hoped no one would notice. But Maria chose honesty. She immediately reported the mistake, explained what had happened, and offered suggestions on how to fix it. At first, she worried about the reaction. Would she be blamed? Would people criticize her? But because she was honest, something remarkable happened. Her team appreciated her transparency. They were able to correct the problem quickly and prevent further complications. Over time, Maria earned a reputation for integrity. People trusted her, valued her input, and knew she could be relied upon in difficult situations. One act of honesty, even though it felt risky at the time, had long-lasting positive effects on her career, relationships, and personal confidence. This story shows a powerful truth. Honesty may be uncomfortable in the moment, but its long-term benefits are enormous. Honesty helps us build trust, respect, and integrity. It allows us to face challenges with clarity and courage. It strengthens our relationships, improves our decision-making, and helps us become the kind of person we want to be. When we embrace honesty, both with ourselves and with others, we set the foundation for a life that is more authentic, confident, and fulfilling. Maria's story is a perfect example of the power of honesty. One day, she discovered a serious mistake in a project report that could have caused big problems for the entire team. In that moment, Maria had a choice. She could ignore the mistake, cover it up, and hope no one noticed. Or she could step forward, admit the error, and take responsibility. She chose the second option. Maria immediately told her manager about the mistake. At first, some people worried that she would be blamed or get into trouble. But something remarkable happened. Over time, everyone began to recognize her honesty as a sign of integrity. It showed that she cared about her team, the work, and doing what was right. That moment of honesty earned her deep trust from her colleagues. Eventually, Maria became one of the most respected and valued leaders in the company. Her story reminds us that honesty doesn't just help in the short term. It builds trust, reputation, and consistency over the long term. The benefits of honesty go beyond how others see us. They also deeply affect how we feel inside. When we live honestly, we experience peace of mind. We no longer have to keep track of lies or worry about covering up mistakes. There is a freedom in living in alignment with your values. Honesty also strengthens confidence. Every time you speak your truth, even in small ways, you remind yourself that your voice matters. You learn to trust yourself, and that self-trust is the foundation of real confidence. This trust in yourself grows into authenticity. Authenticity means living in alignment. Your words match your actions, and your actions match your heart. When that happens, you feel more whole, more real, and more at peace. Living authentically also means being accountable. Accountability is taking responsibility for your words and actions. It means admitting when you're wrong, learning from mistakes, and making changes when necessary. These qualities, honesty, authenticity, and accountability, work together to create a life of integrity. The emotional benefits of living honestly are profound. When you are honest, you reduce stress because you're not constantly trying to manage what you said or what you didn't say. You feel lighter, freer, and more in control of your life. Honest people often report feeling calmer, more centered, and more confident in their decisions. Over time, this leads to better relationships, stronger connections, and a sense of inner strength that cannot be taken away. Another important aspect is trust. Honesty creates trust with others, and trust is the foundation of any strong relationship, at work, with friends, or in family. When people know you are truthful, they feel safe sharing their own thoughts and feelings. That safety allows collaboration, problem-solving, and mutual respect to grow. Dishonesty, on the other hand, slowly erodes trust. Even small lies can create doubt and distance, while honesty builds bridges that last. Living honestly is not always easy. It can feel uncomfortable, risky, or even scary at times. But the long-term rewards are worth it. Honesty strengthens character, builds confidence, deepens relationships, and brings inner peace. By choosing truth over convenience, you create a life that is real, meaningful, and aligned with your values. Maria's example shows that honesty may require courage in the moment, but it pays off in trust, respect, and self-respect over a lifetime. Honesty is more than just telling the truth in a single moment. It's about building habits of integrity, accountability, and consistency that shape who we are. Accountability is a sign of strength, not weakness. People respect someone who can say, "I made a mistake, but I'm working to fix it." They respect honesty far more than excuses or blaming others. When you practice accountability regularly, you show maturity, reliability, and responsibility. Over time, these habits help you create a reputation that others can trust, and they also give you a sense of inner peace. Honesty becomes part of your character, your identity, and even the legacy you leave behind. It's not just a one-time choice. It's a lifestyle. But let's be honest, sometimes being truthful can hurt. That is one of the biggest challenges we face. How can we be honest while still being kind? How can we deliver the truth without causing unnecessary pain? The first thing to understand is the difference between honesty and harshness. Being honest doesn't give you a free pass to speak without care. Some people think that if they speak bluntly or sharply, it counts as honesty. They might even say, "I'm just being honest," when really, they're being careless. Honesty without kindness isn't courage, it's thoughtlessness. When truth is delivered harshly, people often stop listening. They feel attacked, hurt, or defensive. That's not the goal of honesty. The purpose of honesty is to communicate truth in a way that helps, not harms. This is where tactful honesty comes in. You can also think of it as truth with love. Tactful honesty means telling the truth in a thoughtful, respectful way. It's about being clear and direct without being cruel. It's about choosing your words carefully, considering the other person's feelings, and delivering the truth in a way that encourages understanding rather than conflict. For example, if a friend asks for feedback on a project, you can be honest about areas for improvement while still acknowledging their effort and strengths. This approach keeps trust intact and shows that you care about both the truth and the relationship. Being tactfully honest doesn't mean avoiding difficult truths. It doesn't mean sugarcoating everything or being vague. It simply means balancing honesty with empathy, thoughtfulness, and respect. It's a skill that takes practice, but it's one of the most valuable ways to maintain strong, healthy relationships. People learn to trust you not just because you tell the truth, but because they know you will deliver it in a way that is fair and compassionate. When we combine honesty, accountability, and tact, we create a powerful foundation for life. We build trust, confidence, and authenticity. We strengthen our relationships and improve our own emotional well-being. Honesty allows us to live without guilt, without fear, and without the stress of maintaining lies. It frees us to act with integrity, make better choices, and grow as individuals. Over time, these practices shape not only how others see us, but how we see ourselves. They create a life that is authentic, meaningful, and deeply satisfying. So remember this. Honesty is not just about telling the truth. It's about how we live, how we speak, and how we take responsibility for our actions. And when honesty is paired with kindness and care, it becomes a tool for connection, growth, and lasting trust. It is both a moral choice and a practical way to live a better, more fulfilling life. Honesty is not just about saying the truth. It's also about how we say it. Being honest can sometimes hurt, even if our intentions are good. That's why it's so important to pair honesty with care, compassion, and respect. Saying the truth in a way that someone can actually hear makes all the difference. If someone feels attacked, they might shut down, ignore what you're saying, or feel hurt. But if they feel understood and respected, they are more likely to listen, learn, and grow from your words. There's a saying that captures this perfectly. Say it in a way they can hear. Let's look at a simple example to understand this better. Imagine your friend is practicing for a job interview and asks for your feedback. During their practice, you notice that they use a lot of filler words like, and, and they don't make much eye contact. You have two ways to respond. One, you could be very blunt. You sounded nervous and you didn't look confident at all. That's honest, yes, but it could also hurt your friend's confidence. It might make them feel discouraged or even embarrassed. The second way is to be tactful and supportive. I can see you have great ideas, and it's clear you care about this job. If you practice cutting down the filler words and making more eye contact, your confidence will really shine. Both responses are honest, but one discourages while the other encourages growth. This is what tactful honesty looks like, speaking the truth with kindness, thought, and care. Being tactful doesn't mean avoiding the truth, lying, or pretending everything is perfect. It doesn't mean shying away from difficult conversations. It simply means thinking carefully before you speak. You consider the timing, your tone, and your choice of words. You ask yourself, why am I saying this? Am I trying to help or just prove a point? When your goal is to help the other person improve, your honesty becomes a gift rather than a weapon. It builds trust instead of damaging relationships. It supports growth instead of creating conflict. Reflect for a moment. Have you ever had to tell someone something difficult, something you knew might be hard to hear? How did you say it? Did you try to be gentle, supportive, or understanding? Or perhaps you've been on the receiving end of honest feedback. At first, it might have felt uncomfortable or even painful. But if it was delivered with care, it probably helped you grow, learn, and improve. That's the real power of tactful honesty. The key idea here is that honesty alone is not enough. Truth without thought can hurt. Truth with care can heal. Truth spoken tactfully helps relationships, builds trust, and encourages personal growth. It allows people to hear feedback without feeling attacked, and it lets the speaker communicate clearly without causing unnecessary pain. Tactful honesty is a skill worth practicing every day. It takes patience, empathy, and awareness of the other person's feelings. Over time, it becomes a natural way to interact, making difficult conversations easier, more productive, and more meaningful. When honesty is paired with kindness, thoughtfulness, and a clear purpose, it stops being scary. Instead, it becomes a tool for connection, growth, and understanding. It strengthens relationships, builds trust, and supports personal development. In the end, truth spoken with care is not just honesty. It is wisdom, respect, and love all rolled into one. Honesty can be powerful, but it doesn't have to hurt people. When combined with empathy, honesty can actually support and encourage someone. It can help them grow instead of breaking them down. Knowing how to be honest in a kind and thoughtful way is an important skill. But there's something we should remember. Honesty doesn't look the same everywhere. Different cultures value honesty in different ways. What seems honest and direct in one culture might feel rude, harsh, or disrespectful in another. This means that being honest is not always about speaking the whole truth exactly as it comes to mind. It's also about understanding how people receive it. For example, in many Asian cultures, people often prioritize politeness and harmony over blunt truth. They may choose softer words or avoid certain topics, not to lie, but to protect someone's feelings or dignity. This idea is called saving face. Saving face means respecting someone's reputation and sense of pride. It's about avoiding embarrassment for yourself or for others. Imagine your friend cooks a meal that doesn't taste very good. In a culture that values direct honesty, someone might say, "This is too salty." That is honest, but it might hurt the cook's feelings. In a culture that values saving face, someone might say, "Thank you for cooking. I really appreciate your effort." That response focuses on kindness instead of criticizing the food. Both responses are honest in their own way. One focuses on the truth about the food, the other focuses on maintaining harmony and kindness. Neither is wrong, they just reflect different values. On the other side of the spectrum, there is the idea of radical honesty. Radical honesty is the belief that people should always speak the full truth, no matter what. People who follow this approach share exactly what they think and feel without sugarcoating or avoiding difficult topics. While this approach can feel liberating because nothing is hidden, it can also come across as harsh or hurtful if the listener is not prepared for such blunt honesty. Radical honesty can strengthen some relationships, especially where both people value direct communication, but it can damage others if sensitivity and context are ignored. This shows that honesty is not just about telling the truth. It's also about understanding the situation, the person you're speaking to, and the cultural or social context. The goal of honesty should be connection, growth, and trust, not simply stating facts without considering the effect on others. Honest communication is a balance between truth and empathy, between being real and being kind. The key is knowing your intention. Are you being honest to help someone improve, to build trust, or to share your feelings respectfully? Or are you speaking truth without care, simply to show you are right? When honesty is combined with thoughtfulness, awareness, and compassion, it becomes a tool for stronger relationships, better understanding, and personal growth. The way honesty is expressed might change depending on the culture, the situation, or the person, but the underlying principle remains the same. Speak the truth in a way that builds trust, respect, and understanding. In the end, honesty is not just about what you say. It's about how, why, and when you say it. It's about balancing truth with empathy, directness with respect, and integrity with kindness. By practicing this balance, honesty can always be a positive force in your life and in the lives of those around you. Honesty can feel refreshing because nothing is hidden. When someone practices radical honesty, you always know where you stand. You know what they think and feel, and that openness can create strong trust. But at the same time, radical honesty can feel harsh. Words spoken without care, even if true, can hurt. The challenge is finding the right balance between being fully honest and being kind. There are two extremes. One is saving face, where people soften the truth to protect someone's feelings or reputation. This approach keeps peace, avoids embarrassment, and shows respect in social situations. But it can also prevent important truths from being shared. On the other side is radical honesty, where everything is said exactly as it is, without softening. This creates openness and authenticity, but without empathy, it can damage relationships. Most of us live somewhere in between these two extremes. We want to be honest, but we also want to be kind. We want to speak the truth in a way that helps others instead of hurting them. Choosing honesty thoughtfully is a skill, and it takes practice. Even within one culture or one family, people often see honesty differently. Some families value directness. They encourage saying exactly what you mean. Others value harmony and politeness. They encourage softening words to avoid conflict or hurting feelings. Take a moment to reflect on your own background. How is honesty viewed where you grew up? Do people speak openly and directly, or do they choose gentler words to protect feelings? When is it okay to be blunt, and when is it better to be polite? Thinking about these questions helps you understand your own style and how to communicate effectively with others. In today's global world, this skill is even more important. We meet and work with people from many different cultures, and understanding how honesty is expressed differently can prevent misunderstandings. It helps build stronger relationships. But this doesn't mean avoiding honesty. It means learning how to balance truthfulness with respect so that your words connect rather than divide. Being honest in this way means thinking carefully about how you express yourself. It might mean choosing your words more carefully. It might mean listening closely and paying attention to body language. It might mean pausing before responding to ensure that your honesty is helpful, not hurtful. This approach shows that honesty is not just about the facts you share, it's also about how you share them. In the end, honesty is a skill, not just a moral rule. It's about knowing when to speak, what to say, and how to say it in a way that respects both the truth and the feelings of others. When you combine honesty with kindness and awareness, it builds trust, strengthens relationships, and helps you communicate more effectively across different cultures and situations. Thoughtful honesty can guide your words, your actions, and your interactions, making connections deeper and more meaningful.